Hello, Panthers. Welcome to Sips and Skills, a bi-weekly coffee talk about soft skill development in the workplace. My name is Abby Straczynski, and I manage student and young alumni programming for the UW Alumni Association. Every other week, I am joined by a fabulous Panther alum to talk a little bit about their career and how they've used soft skill development in their lives, both personally and professionally. Today, we are joined by Domonique Ford. Domonique is a Milwaukee native, born and raised on the North Side. She's also a proud Panther, receiving her bachelor's degree in criminal justice from UWM in 1999. She currently works as a senior manager in financial services at Direct Supply. And as a proud UWM Panther, she also serves on our board of trustees. In her free time, Domonique enjoys playing tennis and traveling. She also has turned her passion for cake design into a bespoke cake business called R.S.V.P. Confections. This morning, Domonique and I will be chatting about conflict resolution and the role this skill has played in her life, both personally and professionally. So welcome, Domonique. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I'm super happy to be here with you this morning.
Excellent. Well, the first question I always ask, because this is our alumni coffee talk, is what are you sipping on this morning?
So this morning, I usually start my morning with water because I actually don't like warm drinks. So like coffee, cocoa, hot cider, all of that is just not for me. So when I need to kick up things in the morning, I usually will grab an Old Faithful Mountain Dew.
All right.
I've super perfected the recipe by adding a splash of orange juice, and you have your morning cocktail.
Wow, that sounds delicious. And I also don't like warm drinks, so I am one to find some kind of chilled beverage in the morning that gives me a little kick that is not hot. So I am with you on that one. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Can you start by telling the Panther family a little bit about your experience since graduating from UWM and the role that conflict resolution has played in that time?
Yep, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I graduated from UWM in May of '99. That same year in August, I began my career here at Direct Supply as a financial services representative. So the team that I now lead is where I started my career. And so, boom, 70% of everything that I had to do for that role sort of hinged on my ability to find some resolution for conflicts that were going on between us and our customers around payments and the like. So getting proficient around that was a must for me. Before coming to UWM, I was a bit more reserved. So it wasn't a natural thing for me. I generally sort of fell to the back because I've always gone to predominantly white schools. So as an African-American woman, I never wanted to stand out for whatever reason. I already knew that I had this sort of big thing between me and the rest of the folks that surrounded me. And so I was always conscious about, what they were thinking or, the stereotype about the angry Black woman. And so because of that, I wanted to get along with everybody, right? I was well liked in school. I didn't have any issues there. I was sort of cool kid adjacent to most of the social groups around. So, I didn't want to spill the egg carton or disrupt anything there. And so I probably allowed a little bit more than I should have. So I'm giving you this to just show that conflict resolution was not something that was innate for me. Certainly had to sort of develop the skill as I went through my career. But what helped at UWM specifically was I pledged my sorority. So I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Shout out to Iota Delta chapter at UWM.
Nice.
And what that experience gave me, because it was such a huge part of my college experience, was it allowed me to see other African-American women who were in business environments, who were very strong, very smart, and they were successful, and they were, taking charge, and they were pushing back on things that didn't make sense or were unfair. And so when they talk about representation matters, that's one of the things for me was super important because it gave me a window into the possibilities of, finding a way to, do conflict resolution, but in a way that was super positive.
Absolutely. That's great. And so you work in financial services now, but you have a degree in criminal justice. I'm going to throw a little curveball question at you. Did your experience in getting a degree in criminal justice also help with conflict resolution at all? And how did you get from that? How did you get to direct supply from a criminal job? What was your intention with that degree? And, how did things kind of change in that journey to where you are now?
When I started at UWM, right, when you're this little kid, you're like, I want to be a lawyer, right? Like that defined path for me made sense in theory.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to school, right, and I realized what you had to do to be a lawyer, namely, you have to enjoy reading, like
yes.
reading a lot. And I didn't. I didn't enjoy that. And so I started down the path of that major. And I learned a little bit too late that this is probably not for me. But what I was able to do through that major was there's an offshoot of criminology that I really, really enjoy. And within that, I enjoy a lot of the research component of it and the finding a solution to a problem. So I think those skills is what led me to find myself in this position and actually really enjoy it, right? Because actually applying for this job, I didn't really know that I was going to love it either, right? It's my first job after graduation. But I fell in place because I was able to utilize, I think, two of my strengths in that I'm a pretty social person. And so that lends itself to relationship building, which is really important in this role. And then the other piece was because of that experience that I had gotten in school, being a little bit more assertive had become my nature. And so those two things together lended to me finding a passion and a place in this role.
I love that. And I think you just pointed out two really important aspects to conflict resolution, which is relationship building. So the more you can relate to your customers, to your staff, like that's going to help you resolve conflict, right? And then problem solving, because conflict in and of itself is essentially just a problem and it needs solving. So I love that. And you spoke a little bit about this, but you mentioned that conflict resolution was not innate. It was not something that you brought into UWM, but can you point out a couple of ways that you really honed that skill, whether it was through your sorority or at school or since leaving school and being in your current role?
So, in terms of finding a way around probably things that I wasn't great at, right? When I think about conflict resolution, there's two things that I can think of that I did, like deliberately in my mind to get myself prepared for this, for what I had to do. And number one was we have to call conflict resolution something else. Like when you say the word conflict, like viscerally, when we hear that, we like go to some dark place and who wants to deal with a conflict? In my role today, I have to call a lot of CFOs, right? So I'm making these calls to these super important people in these C-suite positions. And I would never call and say, hi, Mr. or Mrs. CFO, I'm calling about, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that your organization owes us, right? Or I'll say, I'm calling because, I really need to improve the communication between your team and my team, right? Like you can't do that. So you have to say something more like, I'm looking for a real opportunity for us to improve communications between our teams, or I think we have a real opportunity to push our relationship forward. Something like that is how you have to frame this thing that you have to do. Because who wouldn't want to have that conversation, right? Like, let's talk about that opportunity. This is a great thing that's happening. It's not a conflict anymore. Right. So, and that was something that I had to learn to develop. I stumbled a lot, right? Because I'm like, my job is to go after this money and I'm gonna, like it just wasn't the right way for me. I did not find that successful. So spinning it on its head was really important for me to start to get in the room and get my audience's attention. I think the second thing for me was starting the conversation from a positive intent, or better yet, a mutual goal that we both want to be the outcome of this conversation, right? So I'll share a short story if I can.
Yeah.
I worked for my second role here at Direct Supply, because I moved around a little bit, was in our sales environment. And I was an implementation specialist. So I was the inside for our outside sales team. So our outside guys would go out, or girls would go out and sell a solution. They'd bring it back and I'd have to implement it, whether it be pricing or the marketing campaign or whatever. I was charged with all of this. So there was a newer sales guy who came on the scene, and I was assigned to him. And he would go out and make these sales, come back and give me all this information. And I had to do my job. Well, let's say he gave me the assignment on Wednesday. I got it done by Thursday afternoon. I get it to him. By Friday, he was telling me, oh, I want to change the direction on this or whatever. And like the first couple times he did, I was like, okay. But it became a routine. And I was literally like mad at him. He was making me so angry. I was just like, I want to do something to him. So it's like, what do you do in that situation, right? Like, I could have continued being angry and maybe not completing his assignments on time, making me look like I was incapable.
Right.
But what I did in that moment, and it was probably a combination of things that led to this. Getting more insight, talking to other leaders. I think I may have even taken a conflict resolution like course or something Direct Supply was offering. But there were a couple of skills that I utilized. One was finding a place that you can go talk to people that's like nobody has home court advantage. So I scheduled a meeting with him in like a meeting room somewhere on this campus that none of us was really familiar with. And I sat down, and literally the first thing I said to him was, I know that you don't wake up in the morning saying, I'm going to make Domonique's day really, really bad today. But I have to share with you that you have been doing it a lot lately. And I just want to figure out a way for us to work better together, right? So that's the mutual end goal of this. And so that opened up a conversation. I got to learn a little bit more about what he was struggling with. Some of it was he just thought of a better idea, but some of it was the customer was pushing him to do a different thing that wasn't discussed, or regulations had changed that caused him to have to change directions. But he also wasn't really familiar with what I had to do my job. I was so good at delivering for him. These things happened overnight. And so he had no idea the headaches that he was causing for me. So, I was nervous about the conversation, because going into it, it's like, I was just mad. And that's all I was thinking was, gosh, this conflict. But when you change the narrative and you come from a point of, we gotta find a solution to this thing. I think the idea of conflict resolution changes. And that, I think, for me, why I'm really good at it. I've been in meetings with like some of the executives at my company, and they're like, oh, we have to tell, the president something. And I'm like, you want me to say it? Because I just don't really have an issue now. Like I've gained this over the years, where there's some things that just have to be said. It's not really what you have to say, but how you say it that makes the world of difference.
Absolutely. I love that. That story was great. So you have answered all my questions so well, and I'm really excited about this conversation, because I think conflict resolution is a really important skill, and not necessarily one that we want to practice, because who wants to, like you said, who wants to be in conflict? So I'm not going to put myself in a situation to make myself practice this skill. But I think you pointed out some really excellent points about problem solving, relationship building, showing empathy, you know, all of those things really go into this skill that you've honed so well over the last, you know, several years since graduating from UWM and even while you were in UWM. So if students are interested in learning more about what you do at Direct Supply, or they're interested in learning more about how you hone this conflict resolution skill, how can they get in touch with you?
So on LinkedIn, Domonique Ford, DOMO. On all social media like Facebook or Instagram, if you look at the hashtag R.S.V.P cake, you will find me.
Perfect. And I will add that in the notes on the video so people will be able to find you there. Domonique, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Such an important conflict, or such an important topic. And I'm really glad that you were able to share your experience. Viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. Come back in 2 weeks when we'll have another Sips and Skills alumni conversation. These conversations can be found on our social media. So follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram. They're also on our website at alumni.uwm.edu/sips and skills. Like or comment on one of the videos on social media for a chance to win a gift card to Stone Creek Coffee. So thank you so much. Have a great day and go Panthers.